So welcome back everyone for the WeHorse Online Festival. Session number 2 is up and we are very pleased to have Arien Aguilar with us. Hello Arien.
Hello, thank you very much for having me.
Arien, we're going to talk about how do I build a trustful relationship with my horse, something that concerns basically everyone. And to give a short introduction about you, you have been born and raised in Lodi, California, close to Sacramento. You are holding a degree in ethology. You graduated in animal science from the University of Texas in 2016. At the moment, you are residing in Europe, in Germany, and in Portugal. And you held your first clinic at the age of 13. And you're an initiator of projects like the Next Generation Equilumina over here in Europe. And we are really excited about how you built a trustful relationship with your horse. So over to you, and the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. All right. So first of all, welcome to everybody. Thank you for being here with me. We are going to talk today about how to have a trustful relationship with your horse, but I think I'm going to direct this a little bit more on how to have a trustful relationship. All in all, in my opinion, a relationship is a relationship, whether you're having it with a human or with a horse. The basics and the logic of all of this is really the same. I would like to start just by saying that I want to build this a little bit in a way that it's more kind of like a thought-provoking presentation. So what I'm going to be saying here are a lot of just points to kind of rock the thought and the imagination a little bit of how you guys can develop your own method and your own way of creating a relationship with your horse. In my opinion, it's very important that you are unique and that you are yourself and that you are open with your horse or with the other being that you're trying to create a relationship for. And so we're going to get started. We're going to go now. First, I would like to, we had a kind of discussion how we should even call this presentation. Right now it's a little bit difficult because everyone sees words a little bit different. And what I would like to kind of set in stone is a little bit what the words mean before we start talking about them. So relationship is the way in which two or more people or things are connected, or the state of being connected. Now, in my opinion, the important thing about talking about a relationship is that there's different ways to be connected. You know, I mean, you can be connected, first of all, positively or negatively, but also even in a positive way. A relationship can be many different things. You can be in a working relationship. You can be in a friendship, and that's where we go then to the point that I really want to talk about here is this kind of friendship thing. I mean, in my opinion, a friendship is a type of relationship, but a relationship is not necessarily a friendship. So a friendship is a friendly relationship or the state of being friends. Now, in my opinion, in a relationship, we're always interacting with each other, and we're trying to sometimes get something from the other one or sometimes give something to the other one. And in which way we do this is where we start really, kind of defining the type of relationship that we're going to want to have. It's important to understand, in my opinion, that not necessarily because it's a different relationship or friendship that is necessarily a bad one. Just to give you an example, with my horses, I have horses where I have working relationships where it's kind of like, okay, you do the exercise for me, I give you the cookie, we're both happy, all right, that's it. And I have other relationships that are a little bit more deep, where we try to do things for each other more because we just want to do something for the other one. And this is the kind of relationship that I want to, that is actually my goal, or the one that I like the most. But I don't want to deny that the other type of relationship can work as well. If you have a horse that you work with, could be good to have kind of like a working relationship with your horse. So it depends really on what your goals are. The other thing that is important to realize here is that I think that relationships or friendships flow. They're not static. They're not always the same. And in my opinion, that's a good thing, because that gives us the ability to build on them or to develop them further and further. It can be also a bad thing, because, I mean, of course, they can flow in the wrong direction as well. And friendships, relationships can be damaged. But I think it's important to kind of see it as a possibility, or see that it can be also used in a good way, and that you can develop that into always better and better relationship. So we are going to now talk a little bit about rules. Normally, I don't like to put rules on stuff. I'm kind of a person that believes that if we are the least rules that we have and the more exceptions that we can put on stuff, the better off that we are. So let's say, for example, when we see the first topic here of respect, it's something that is not as simple as just I don't know. I think respect is kind of difficult to define. Most people see it as submitting to the other one. I was taught by my father more that respect means to kind of have a good intention towards depending on what you're respecting. So most people see respect only to other ones, but I also think that it's very important in a relationship to have respect for yourself first. If you're not able to respect yourself, it's usually pretty difficult to have real respect for others. Respect for animals, obviously, in my opinion, the exact same way that you would have respect for humans, and respect for the relationship, and respect for the type of being that you are and that the other one is. In my opinion, these are not real rules, but they're more like guidelines, things that you should kind of think about when you're taking decisions on how to work on the relationship. So the first is mutual respect, wanting the best for the other, for yourself, for the relationship, and for the being that you're working with. Then we have tell your horse what is good, but also what is not good. I think most people think that in order to build a good relationship, you always have to be good or positive. Let's just say you always have to be positive with the other. I very much disagree with that. I have the feeling that the strongest relationships that I have are with other beings where I have had discussions or difficulties that we have worked through, and through that become stronger in the relationship. So for example, you have a horse and the horse is biting you and biting you and biting you, and you keep giving him kind of like warnings that you're not okay with that you respect yourself enough to not allow something like that. And in my opinion, it's okay in a negative way to let the horse know that you were not okay with that. So this is in my opinion something that can strengthen the relationship, even though most people see it that if I hit my horse, or if I thump him on the nose, or something that might bother him, depending on the type of horse that it is, might be something negative. And of course, in the moment, it most likely will be. But I think that if you are able to turn that into the horse knowing that, that you just were kind of defending yourself, or that it's not okay to disrespect you or something like this, that the horse will respect you more because you respect yourself. And the other way around too. That you allow the horse to kind of show you, also maybe in a negative way, when you are wrong, and that you are able to accept when you are wrong. So in my opinion, doing positive and doing negative is you saying yes or saying no, and letting your horse know what you're okay with, what is good, but what is not good. Also, it's important to always consider what both of the beings want, and that's what I said before with respecting who you are as a being and who the horse is as a being. I think it's important to realize that you're not a horse, and that the horse is not a human, and that you want different things. Usually that's similar in relationships with humans as well. Usually you don't want the same thing, but that doesn't mean that you cannot have a good relationship or a friendship, a very good friendship in some cases. So what I mean with this is, for example, you're working with a horse and you're working in the field. The horse wants to eat grass. So if you're considering what you both want, then hopefully you will be able in the relationship to do an exercise with the horse, which is what you probably want from the horse, and then allow the horse to eat some grass, which is probably what the horse wants to do. This is just an example. And if you're able to consider those two things and work back and forth between those two, then you're going to have a relationship where you're both working for each other and trying to do things just because you want to do it for the other one, not because you're afraid or because you're getting paid for it. Then you have be a trustworthy partner for your horse. In my opinion, this is like in every relationship. If you're always saying trust me, this is going to be like this, trust me, this is going to be like this, and then you're not able to keep up to your promises, then the relationship kind of loses value through that inability to be a trustworthy partner and to keep up with what you promised. So I think that's also pretty important. So let's see what we have here. Next one. This sounds all good, no? I think most of you will agree with what I said until now. I think most of you will say that, okay, that's true, but I mean, that sounds all good and fine, but how do I actually get started? I mean, how do I actually begin with this? I mean, if I'm now standing in front of the horse, it doesn't matter how good or nice and romantical what I just said might sound if you don't know where to start. So now we're going to go and start looking at how really to start building it. So first, in my opinion, what you have to know is you have to know your horse truly. And what I mean is to really know what the behavior or the actions of somebody are built from or by. Normally in ethology, what we like to do is to divide behavior into temperament and character. And we usually say that temperament is the genetic side of a behavior, you know, what you're born with, the thing of your behavior or the part of your behavior that will not change through time. Then we also have character, and character is more the part of your behavior that develops as you grow and as you live experiences while growing up. So normally the good thing about this is that we say that 20% of the behavior is temperament and 80% character. So usually when I look at this, I look at this as 20% of your horse's behavior, how he is, how he reacts, is that part that will not be changed. And 80% is that character, which will develop through time and will continue to change and evolve as we go, depending on the experiences that the horse has. Let's say an example of this. I have a horse that is active. Active is usually something that you just are. It's not something that you, through a experience in life, you became active. It's usually you are an active person, or you are a slow person, more kind of lazy. But these are usually things that don't change. Those are usually things that are just part of who you are. So if I have an active horse, a horse that's very explosive and reacts a lot, and I am expecting him to be a child's horse that's always really secure and is always, you know, staying straight and never really going and doing unexpected things or things like this, it's going to be very hard for me to build a good relationship with that horse, between the kid and the horse, because they're not really compatible in this, because we're looking for different things, and you're already kind of disrespecting the horse by asking him to be something that he is not. So I think that goes again to those kind of guidelines that I was talking about before. It's not really a rule, but a guideline into, okay, that there you're already kind of conflicting with the respect kind of side, because if you cannot respect that the horse is an active, explosive horse, then of course you can teach him to be a little bit safer and to kind of not do that too often. But if you completely tell him that he's never able to do it, then the relationship is going to be very difficult. On the other hand, it's important to know that 80% is character. That means that a lot of things we can change. So for example, if you have an aggressive horse, usually horses, unless they have some problem at birth and then they have some mental problem or something like this, but usually they're not born aggressive. So fear, you usually are not born fearful. You learn to have fear or show aggression because of something that happened in your life. So these are usually things that can be changed to a quite high degree, I would say. And so let's continue on our trip and see. We have here, get to know your horse truly. So after I know and kind of understand what a horse's behavior can be built with, or actually any living being's behavior is built by, then we start kind of observing how it behaves facing problems. Now, the reason I wrote it like this here is because, in my opinion, as long as things are good, we're all good, right? So it's, most of us don't really have a problem being nice with others when everything is fine. Most of us don't have a problem behaving ourselves accordingly to whatever rules are set by the way that we grew up, as long as things are fine. But when problems come up, it's usually when we are kind of showing ourselves more as we really are, instead of just as we think that we can pretend to be. So that's why I usually like to present the problem to both me and the horse, and to kind of try to solve it together. Sometimes if I'm trying to get to know the horse, I will let the horse kind of solve it by himself and not help him too much, just because I want to see what he does after a while. How quickly does he try something different? How many times does he try the same thing? What does he look for? Does he look to run away, or does he look for help? Or, I mean, all these things kind of let me learn who the horse truly is, and what kind of who he really is in the inside. So usually when I do clinics and I put a plastic or something that is supposed to be spooky to the horse, most people concentrate a lot on the horse solving the problem, instead of using this as a learning tool to kind of really let the horse grow in himself by solving the problem, and to observe and let the problems happen. So what I say by this is, most want to hide the problem. So if you put a plastic on the ground and you put some cookies on it, at some point the horse is just going to concentrate on cookies and not on the plastic, and then he'll walk over it. Especially if you're not there, especially if there is no pressure for him to go over it. But that doesn't really, in my opinion, help us in many ways, because we didn't really learn anything from it. The horse didn't really learn to solve a problem. I would prefer to not put the cookies on there, and to kind of ask the horse to go through it, or to show it to the horse, and then see how the horse reacts, and do that over and over a few times, to see how the horse deals with that problem that he's being presented with. The other thing that I think is very interesting that most people don't really take time for is learning what the favorite reward is of mine and of my horse. Like, what do I get rewarded by? What does the horse get rewarded by? This is important, because if you want to really show appreciation to the other being for what they just did right, it helps to know what you can give them that is really valuable to them. So it's a problem if I'm always scratching a horse that actually likes space, because then I'm actually punishing him instead of rewarding him. Or it's bad if I am giving a break to a horse that's very smart and always likes to be active, because if I make him now take a break, then it's actually a punishment, not really a reward. So it's important to kind of experiment and see, okay, what is really positive for the horse and what is really negative for the horse, because for different horses and for different humans, it will be something different. We see this with children all the time. So some children you yell at them, and that is the worst punishment that they could have had, and it's almost like, they were attacked by you or something like that. It's really, really bad for them. And there's other children that they just don't care. That might be some even that really like the attention of being yelled at. So if we know that, then we really know if what we're doing to this being is being perceived as positive or negative. And then important, we already talked about this, which traits are character and which ones are temperament. So which parts of your horse are traits that you can change and which ones not. And if you look a little bit online, you'll find a lot of lists of which traits can be considered temperament and which ones are character. And what you can do always to kind of fact check what you find online is to really think, okay, is this something that you're normally born with, or is this something that changes through time? And then you will know if it's a character or temperament. So we'll keep going through here. So now we're going to experiment a little bit. I already told you a few kind of my basic guidelines on how I like to experiment with the horses. I'm going to show you here 3 horses that we experimented with. I think it was last year while we were filming with WeHorse. And what I really like about these horses is that they didn't really have that much work on the type that I do. So we really got to see some very pure reactions of the horses. So we'll get started with the first one. So this horse number 1, we're just going to let the film play a little bit here. So what I did here is I just put a plastic. Problems with horses that don't have that much experience in the human world are usually very easy to find. So all I had to do here to find a problem is I put a plastic, And I'm trying to ask the horse to kind of go to it and experiment with it without me kind of walking in front of him and without really putting that much pressure to him. I mean, I'm trying for him to experiment with it as much by himself as possible. That's why I often stand there and explain something to the camera, and I just let the horse just chill there in the hopes that he experiments by himself. If he doesn't after a while, then I asking him to do it. There you can see a few times he's looking at the plastic or he's looking somewhere else, but he's not really paying attention to me. So he's not looking for my help, but he's pretty kind of like evasive and trying not to look at the problem. This actually happens more often than people think. I mean, this kind of horse that just kind of turns his head away and you say, well, as long as I don't look at the problem, it's probably just not going to be there. Then what I noticed is since the horse kept trying to run away from the problem, I tried to hold a rope, walk backwards, and with the rope kind of asked the horse to go to the problem. So there I was already kind of, okay, I watched enough. Of course, this is a really short video. This was a longer training session when we actually did it. But there I reached a point where I said, okay, I have watched enough. I've seen that you are not the kind of horse that confronts problems. And then I started seeing, okay, if he's avoiding the problem always, can I start asking him to please look at the problem, to please experiment with the problem? And actually worked very well with him. I mean, instead of really confronting him by taking the problem to him, I started asking the horse to come to the problem. And this actually gave him a little bit kind of more security and stuff like that. But I do think that being a little bit insecure is something that this horse is going to stay with. He was there, I think, I don't know, 4 or 5 years old, something like that. He was still a little bit young. So the character was then insecure, careful, and unfocused. These are things that I think we're going to be able to change. He was very social as long as there was no problem there. But as soon as the problem came, then he stopped being social. So I think this social part is probably something that can be used to kind of solve the insecurity problem a bit. But I think he's always going to be a little bit like this, that insecurity part is going to stay a little bit there. So there we have something that between maybe a character and a temperament kind of thing. But I think that since he was so social with me when the problem was not there, I think that if you kind of build a relationship with him and really start chilling with him and kind of showing him that you'll help him get through it, then maybe he'll start looking a little bit more at you to solve the problem. But that's something that's not there yet, and that would have to be built. The reward was to be with him, to scratch him, to make him feel safe, and especially to take away whatever was the problem. So that was a very big reward for him. And the training would be riding with the lead horse, because my hope was that since he was so social, that, for example, if you just put a saddle on him, you sit on him, then he'll get spooked because he has nobody really there to help him out. But if he's following another horse, then it might be a lot better since he's that social, and then he might be a little bit more relaxed. And approaching obstacles together was an important one for this one. And with together, I mean more you put the obstacle between you and the horse. You walk backwards and you let the horse come to the obstacle instead of you taking the obstacle, the problem, to the horse. So we're going to take a look at horse number 2. All right. So this was a horse that was a little bit, well, actually a lot calmer. I mean, he would look at it, but he was quite curious after a while. And there you can see, I mean, he's more a horse that looks at the problem, then looks at me and goes like, okay, what am I supposed to do? I mean, let me know. So he's a little bit more kind of really asking already from the beginning. I don't think that you're going to have a lot of problems with training this horse, because he really pays attention to you whenever he doesn't know what to do. And even though the horses were the very similar age, it's quite nice to see that they're showing such different responses. And that's why I really wanted to show you this, because I wanted to show you how different the horses can be, and that we cannot put rules on the horses to just say, okay, you do like this and like that and like that, and then you have the horse trained and you're friends forever. The way that the horses learn and the way that you are going to develop the relationship is really going to depend a lot on the type of horse. And if you cannot develop your own training system and develop an individual way to communicate with the horse and to build the relationship, then you're not really going to have the best results, because it's not a system that's really catered to that horse. All right, so let's look at the chart. We're going to have here self-confident. Obviously, I mean, I guess you guys saw it. The horse, even though we could see that it was the first time that he was looking at those problems, you could see that he would just look at it. Oh my God. Oh, okay, it's all fine. So he was really quickly just kind of, he was really quickly just kind of not caring. Now, the problem with this one is actually that he was way too calm. So I think he's going to have a little bit problem getting motivated. Usually people think that because the horse is just standing there and they'll like to kind of put it on one place or another, you know. Either the horse is just kind of shutting down because he's been trained to death, or he does not care at all. So I think there is somewhere in between. I mean, there is calm horses that have fun being calm. Actually, my father has one of those ones that, I mean, he just likes being there. He doesn't really like putting too much effort, too much work into stuff. He's a self-confident horse like this one, searches the contact, and he's curious, but it's not really that he has to kind of be very active about things or put a lot of effort into what he's doing. So I think this horse is going to be a little bit like that. Again, it's really hard to to look at 3 minutes and for you guys now to look at 3 minutes and completely see what's going on. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of an example of how I like to test the horses. Temperament, calm, harder to motivate. And that's going to give us the problems, for example, with the reward, because with horses that are, for example, the horse that we had before, it's quite an easy horse to motivate, because all you have to do is kind of stop asking him to work and he's relaxes, he's fine with everything, and he has the reward. With this one, it's going to be a little bit more difficult. I think you're going to have a little bit more either to find a very good place to scratch him, that he likes being scratched that much that can be the reward. But this is probably a horse that I would work with food, because just I think that would help him be a little bit more motivated. We'll talk a little bit about how we would use that. Needs more energy and challenges and new experiences. So this is also a horse that you cannot just give him 2 or 3 jobs and then he's fine. He's going to have a lot of different things to do to still find them interesting, because you saw it there with the plastic moved a little bit. He looked at that and then it was not interesting anymore. So I think when you teach him an exercise, it's probably going to be similar with him. All right, let's look at horse number 3. I really like this horse, even though actually it was one of the more difficult ones for me to work with. He was quite a bit pushy. He was a horse that I think that he learned it from somebody that worked with him before. But he would kind of, when he didn't really understand or he didn't really know what to do, then he would just block and kind of go a little bit against you. But I think that he was a good mix between active and calm, and I think that he would be an interesting horse to work with, because I think you can turn him up and down. He's looking a little bit at you, but usually when he looks at you, he has the feeling that he has to redo something. So you saw it there a little bit. He was looking away. Then as soon as he looked to me, then he started walking to me. So he is also a horse that gets calm through movement. So usually when he's walking, then he's kind of licking his lips, and he'll let his lips a little bit more hang. And there you can see it again. When he's standing, he's a little bit more tense, and he keeps kind of like bobbing his head a little bit. So that's also something that usually changes with the time. But I really like to know if this is a horse that gets, in which situation is the horse calm or tensed, because then I can use that. So when I would ask him for an exercise and he would do it right, I actually started just letting him walk in circles, because he was a lot more happy walking in circles than standing there and taking a break. There, I was trying to touch his face, and I really like this here, because a few times he tried to bite at my hand when I was trying to touch his face. And here I wanted to show you guys kind of a discussion. I mean, that not everything is positive when I'm working with a horse. And to me, it's very important that not everything is positive, because then it is realistic. You know, if you're with somebody and everything is always positive, then that doesn't seem like real life to me. I mean, in life, I have the feeling things are positive and negative. So here we had a little bit of a discussion, and it was really amazing how quickly he got it. I think this is one of the youngest horses that we were working on that day, and I was really impressed how we had a discussion and then it was over. So I think he was also a horse that kind of liked to test a little bit. All right, so we have here an explosive character, insecure, nervous, a little bit pushy. I think those are all things, except for the explosiveness, probably, that are going to change pretty quickly. The explosiveness is probably going to stay there because it's connected to the sensitivity. You're going to be able to work on it, so it's not a negative explosiveness. You're probably going to be able to shape it a lot, but it's not going to be that he's going to be calm in the future. I think he's always going to be a horse that's going to react pretty quickly. He was very intelligent. Sadly, until now, he used his intelligence, or he learned to use his intelligence in a wrong way, but I think that that can be turned around pretty quickly and used positively. As a reward, I would definitely not scratch him or touch him, because I mean, you saw there when I was trying to touch his face, that was pretty much in the whole body the same way. So if you try to scratch the horse, or you try to pet the horse and he doesn't like it and you have to work on that, then I would definitely not use that as a reward, because I mean, for him it's something negative and not positive. You could try to connect touching him in the body with something positive by, for example, touching him and then giving some food, and then you could slowly start to make touching him in the body something positive. Maybe it could even become a reward one day, but it's not a natural reward that would be there from the beginning. Rider break or an exercise he likes. I think that what I mean here with break is a break from the exercise, not really a break in standing. So if he's, for example, you asked him just to move his hindquarters, I would, for example, just let him walk, or walk with him, but with a little bit more space with him. So this is a horse that was pretty young, so it's a little bit harder to really say, but I think that with these things you would have a pretty good start. I think the most important with this one is to not reward him with touching him too much, because he didn't like it. So I think that's something that you just have to accept. And I have had actually quite a few horses that didn't like really being touched that much, especially in the beginning. I think it's quite normal if they don't have that much contact with humans in the beginning, that they don't like being touched from the beginning on, but it depends always on the horse. All right, so now we have these 3 examples, and then we go to communication. Obviously, if you're going to have a relationship, if you cannot communicate well with the other, then we have a problem, because without a communication, you cannot let the horse know what you want, what you don't want, and just kind of, how can I say this the best? So it's difficult to develop, let's just say like that. So in my opinion, when I start working with a horse, I can either say yes or no, but this is just the beginning. And I always try to say to people that the communication is supposed to be kind of like a dialect. It's not horse language and it's not human language. The reason why is because we're never going to be horses. I hear it all the time, people saying, if you want to communicate with horses, then you have to be a horse. I think we're never going to be horses. We're humans, and part of this being in a relationship kind of thing is a little bit respecting yourself, means also knowing who you are and what you are, and we're not going to be horses. Even if we learn about how horses communicate, I think it's going to be very hard for us to really communicate in the same way. But what we can do is we can use what we learn from knowing how horses communicate and how we communicate to create a new way of communications, and to create signals that we can both get along with and that we can both work with. All right. So we have communication is only happening if the signal that you're using is being sent from you and understood by the horse. And I think this is very important, even though it seems pretty logical, that we really pay attention to that. Not because you're sending the signal means that there's communication going on. So I see it all the time. People give the horse the command, and then the horse doesn't understand it, and the horse doesn't do it, and then they go like, well, I mean, why is he not doing it? Well, I mean, if he doesn't really know what you're telling him, it's kind of hard for him to do it. Most people have problems with this because they're not clear with their signals. Now, I know that most people also say, yes, it's true. Most people are not clear with my signals, but I'm clear with my signals. And I used to be one of those people until I saw people working with, for example, zoo animals. And I started seeing the signals that they were using and how exact and correct they were with which signals they would use for which exercises, that I realized that in the horse world, we really have long ways to go with really using signals correctly. I think often, and you see it all the times in the stables, you know, I mean, you see someone wants to get the horse start trotting, they go, I don't know, just making some kind of sound repeatedly forever. And there's no way for the horse to know what that means. I mean, of course, at some point they'll just start running whenever there's some noise that comes forever, but it's not really a clear signal that the horse is really always going to understand. The other thing that I want that we take into consideration before we go further with the whole signal thing is that a signal is not only the voice. It can be a movement, it can be color, it can be light, it can be a sign that you do with your hands or with your body or whatever. I mean, so a signal can be anything. What's important is that you can both see it and you can both understand it. All right, so let's go on. Basic rules for human-horse communication. I think that when we're starting to communicate and we don't have that much communication yet, then we need to, we need to start creating one. And to create one is important that first you're safe. So this means, for example, if you're, let's say, sending your horse somewhere and you know that it might be spooked by that you're not in the way that he could run away from that thing that he's getting spooked by, because horses are reaction animals. And if I know that everyone thinks that the horse loves him, but if the horse gets scared enough, then he will not think about it and he will just try to run away. Then you might be in the way, and then you're going to be a little bit in danger. The other thing is be consequent. With this, I mean two things. The one thing is to not give up. So horses often test us. And it does happen that even though the horse is understanding what you're saying, he will not do it. In my opinion, this, if you see it from the side of the horse, is actually quite logical. In my opinion, this is because the horse is doing something usually that he doesn't know why he's doing it. In my opinion, the horse doesn't think, oh, I'm going to do a shoulder in because now I'm going to make the back musculature and my strength better or my balance better. In my opinion, the horse does the shoulder in because you asked him to. And that's great. I mean, that's the amazing thing about working with horses, that they very often will do things for us, even though they don't really know what it is for, but they just do it for us because they really want to work with us. And that's something that I really think is achievable with horses and with humans, to have this type of relationship where you're just doing something for each other just because you want to do something for each other. But for this, it's important that if the horse says no, and you know that he's understanding it, that you keep asking for it and that you kind of keep calm, and that you don't take the reactions of the horse personal. We're going to get down to that one. The other thing that I mean with being consequent is to keep your aids that you're giving always the same. So I see all the time people giving 3 or 4 different voice commands, for example, for the same exercise. So let's say I want my horse to canter, and sometimes they click, and sometimes they give a little kiss, and sometimes they whistle or whatever. And this is very hard for the horse to really understand what the difference is. Why are you giving a different signal every time? Then we have stay calm and give clear signals and be accurate. Yes, that was the next one. And then we have stay calm and never take a reaction personal. Never is maybe a little bit too strong there. I said before that, for example, that horse that was biting me all the time, that I took a little bit personal and I thumped him a little bit there on the nose. But if a horse is now scared or is trying to test you, then you need to really take a breath and really show the horse that you have the patience to get through the problem with him, instead of just letting your anger or frustration get a hold of you and punishing the horse unfairly. So I'm not against punishing. I'm against unfair punishing. So I'm against, I'm angry now, so I'm just going to hit the horse until he does what I want, just because I'm angry. Obviously, that thumping on the nose is hitting. Yeah, so it is negative. It is a punishment. But I thought that I was being fair with the horse there, and that I was not acting just because I was angry. I warned him a couple of times that I don't want him to do it with me, and then I defended myself. But I really think that this is something that we learn through time to kind of control our emotions. So we'll continue here. Then we go to the bridge. We're going to let a video play here as well. The bridge marks the moment when the desired behavior is accomplished and bridges the time gap between that moment and the moment when the horse gets the reward. So let's say that I just want my horse to do a Spanish walk. So if I'm working with my horse to do Spanish walk and I want to use the bridge, then I ask the horse to do Spanish walk. The horse did the right exercise. Then I use the bridge, which, for example, for me, that is the word brav. So when I say brav, then the horse knows that he did the right thing and that he will be now rewarded. So it goes in between the correct behavior and the reward. So when this bridge or this terminology that I'm going to use for the next 3 slides is kind of from the ethology, and it's nothing that I invented or anything like that. It's just the way it's supposed to be called. And here you can see, for example, I'm walking back. Sadly, there's no sound in this video, but I'm walking back. I'm giving the horse the bridge. Here I'm teaching the horse to stand still. So I'm letting him stand still. And if he wants to come to me, then I correct him, which is a punishment. I'm telling him that he's doing wrong. That is punishment. But as soon as he did right, then I give him the bridge. I let him know that he did right. And then I give him the reward, which is coming to me. This horse always really liked contact and being next to me. So then I let him come again to me. There you have me training with one of my ponies. Yes, I'm seeing here in one of the comments, it's like a clicker click. Yes, that's true. But I don't like to say clicker training because even though I'm a big fan of clicker training, I'm not that big of a fan of the clicker, because most people close themselves into thinking that clicking is the only thing that really that can be a bridge. So a bridge can be anything. For example, most people teach the horses that the bridge is their pocket. So when they're going to give the word, before they give the word to tell the horse that he did right, they put the hand into the pocket. And at some point, the horse recognizes that he did right when you put your hand into the pocket and not really when you gave the bridge, which is a problem, because if you're now using a cookie that you don't have in your pocket, then the horse is not really going to understand what you're working on. KGS, or the IB, that is stands for keep on going stimulus or intermediate bridge. This is something that you say before the bridge to let the horse know that he's doing better and that he's going to reach the goal and he's going to hear the bridge if he's doing right. So if we watch the video here, this usually for me is good. And I use a good just to kind of give the security to the horse. So for example, here, I'm asking him to walk sideways to me and he's just bringing the hindquarters, but he's kind of doing the right thing. So I'm telling him, good, 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 that he knows that he's doing the right thing, but it also doesn't mean that he's finished. So he has to continue working. So here I'm telling him, good, 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 good. So he continues doing the right exercise. When he's finished doing the right exercise, then I tell him brav, and then he gets the cookie. So here's the same thing. I really like to use this IB in exercises where that are longer, you know. If, for example, you're teaching the horse to walk in a circle, then after a few steps, the horse doesn't really know, okay, is this right or not right? Or what is this? Why are you not saying anything? So this IB or KGS lets me let the horse, okay, you're doing right. Don't worry. I'm not rewarding you because you need to do it longer, but you're on the right track. So this is a little bit kind of what we're doing here. Then we have the RS, the redirection stimulus. This lets the horse know that it's whatever he did was wrong, and that he should try something else if he wants to receive the reward. So here I usually use a no. Then let's say the horse is I don't know. For example, here he was supposed to move the shoulder to the other side. He was doing the wrong thing. When I touch him on the shoulder, you said no. The here with this horse, I was just using it for about 2 weeks, 3 weeks. So that's why he doesn't really understand it yet. I still have to correct him. But the nice thing is that very quickly the horses start realizing that when you say no, that they have to stop doing that and start doing something else. If not, then they're not going to really receive anything positive, or they might even receive something negative if they continue down that path. So here I'm working with a horse that always likes to run in front of me. Good. So there I was using the no when he was trying to run in front of me. And as soon, there we have another correction. And that one was also followed by a no. Well, actually there, I gave him a little bit too much at the same time. But perfect would have been if I would have said no and then given the correction. But what I'm trying to say with this is just, if it comes before the correction, it's better. That gives the horse the possibility to kind of do the right thing before he really gets a real correction. All right, now we're going to just take a look at another video from a horse here, just to kind of close everything up. The idea here is to just show you a little bit of my contact. Here you see the horse is also kind of trying to play a little bit with me. There I protected a little bit myself with the elbow, but I'm trying to stay consequent in asking him still what I want to be asking him, even if he's kind of bothering me with the elbow. So I'm not taking it too serious. I try to protect myself, but I try to just give him something to do. My hope is that I don't have to fight with him over it, that just when he has something to do, he will stop doing the wrong behavior, and then we will just be fine. My goal is that he stops with me, and you can see that I'm stopping with my body and letting him walk too much, because I want him to make the mistake. I want him to make the mistake of walking too much so I can tell him that I was wrong. And then as soon as he walks too much, and I correct him for it, and then I start again. And my hope is that he kind of takes the responsibility himself of stopping without me having to correct him, and that he stops with me just because I stop with him. There he turned a little bit to look at me, but he didn't really stop. You can also see my aids with the rope. I'm trying to let the rope hang. Yes, that was really good. I'm trying to let the rope hang as much as possible. So I don't want the horse to learn that I need to always drag him from the rope and take him whatever. There we see a little bit of discussion. I think somewhere here in the video, we have a little bit bigger of an explosion. There we go. And there you can see, I'm not really putting pressure on him. I'm trying to not pull on the rope. I'm just trying to let him drag me a little bit through the sand. There you can see it again. And I'm just keep pointing the hand in front of him. I keep pointing the hand in front of him. I keep following him, but not really too aggressive, but I'm just staying where I am, waiting for him to kind of change his reaction. And then he got a little bit slower, and then I just let him, okay, breathe again. Now, the reason that I wanted to show you this here again is because we tend to concentrate a lot on the positive things, but in my opinion, it's also important to concentrate in the negative, you know? I mean, then how we deal with the negative is going to be a huge part on how a relationship grows together. Here, we had this discussion here, and obviously we had to cut the video a little bit to kind of fit it in this short time, but I want you to see the reaction of the horse right there. I mean, I pointed my finger in front of him, and he didn't do it right, but he tried. That's everything I care about. I just want him to try. And there you see it again. I mean, his face expression is completely different. Here we're gonna see a little bit again. Sometimes I tried a little bit with the stick just because I wanted to see if it was easier for him to understand what I wanted, just to kind of try to really just help him out on as much and give him as many tools so that we have as little negative moments as possible, but I don't hide from them. So I kind of try to be realistic, and I kind of try to be fair. And I really, really like the face expression of the horse there. That's why I really wanted to show you guys that. I wanted to show you how that horse changes in the way that he's looking at me, and the way that he always turns his ears to me. It's kind of trying to please me. So all right, then I hope that you guys liked it. I understand, if I understand correctly, we're going to look at some questions here. I hope I didn't go too much over time. I was trying to kind of fit everything there. We had a lot of topics that we wanted to talk about, but I hope that you guys kind of liked the thought-provoking.
Yeah, wonderful, Arien. Thank you very much. Here we also show the courses we have with you. We shot last year in Portugal and Spain. It is about having the correct and right relationship with your horse. It is a couple of courses on wehorse.com, the online riding academy. We have a special coupon code for you guys. It is Online Festival 2020. You just enter it in the field that is in the registration process, and then if you redeem it, you get 33% off the WeHorse yearly subscription. So we jump right into the questions, and there are plenty of questions, Arien. And there is actually one question which aroused quite some attention here in the community, and it's a little provocative question, but as I know that you are, of course, capable of answering it, I will start now. So it is about the relationship between humans and horses. So how do you react in a kind and educative fashion towards those that treat horses in a toxic way and not necessarily in a trust-building partnership? Just a general advice, maybe. You don't go into too much depth.
I like I said before, I actually like conflict because I think that we can learn through it. So with horses, I usually like to discuss. But I also know that there is a lot of discussions, a lot of negative discussions that don't really bring anything. So I kind of like to try to think, okay, what kind of person is this? And is it really going to do something if I now start discussing with this person? If not, I try not to say anything because I think that fighting with this person is just going to block the person more. Most people want to have a real friendship with their horse. I think most people, even in the competition world, most people are not in the competitions for the money, because the truth is that there's not that much money to be made in competition. So most people are in there because they really want to just have a friendship with their horse. So I think that if I see somebody with a horse and they're doing something that doesn't fit into what I normally like seeing, either I will approach the person and talk with the person and offer them a different way to do it. I won't even tell them that they're doing something wrong. I'll just tell them that, in my opinion, if they did a little bit like this, it would be better, if I think it's somebody that's open to it. And if not, I try to ignore it, because I think that people will come to it by themselves. And if we attack them the same way that they attack us, then usually there's no conversation to be had, and they're blocked anyway, so they're not going to learn anything. So I try to concentrate on the people that I can help. And that also helps me to have peace and not be fighting all the time. Yeah.
Good. I hope, Melissa, this answers your question. Let's move to the next one. Angelina asks, how do you tell your horse what's not good, and how long do you should expect it? Oh, hold on. How do you tell your horse what's not good, and how long do you should expect it? Will the horse to understand the good or not good things? So how long does it take a horse to understand it?
Right. So that's something that I didn't go into enough detail. I think I kind of skipped a little bit over that part. I said before that what's positive or negative for somebody is completely different, right? So for example, I was a very active, very outgoing person, and if my dad yelled at me and gave me a little kick on the ass and told me to kind of get my act together, it was okay for me, you know? I mean, I might know that it was negative, but it wasn't that bad for me. If he would have done the same thing for my sister, that was really bad for her. She was a lot more sensitive to it. So the way that we were told that we did something negative was completely different. And with horses, it's the same thing. There's some horses that, you know, you can grab the whip and kind of give them something a little bit on the hindquarters, and they don't really care. They're not really that sensitive, that explosive. I mean, it's not negative for them. And there's a lot of horses that you do that, and you just ruin the relationship for a long, long time. You're going to have a tough time fixing that again. So what's important in the negative thing is to try to experiment with your horse. How sensitive is he? What is negative to him? There's some horses that, you know, just to continue asking them to work is negative enough. I mean, to just not tell him that they did right, that is bad enough for them. And you don't have to tell them no. You just continue telling them what you want them to do, and they will continue trying to do it because they know that they didn't do it right. And that's already negative enough for them. There's other horses where you can raise the voice, and that's already negative. There's other horses where you you put some energy into your body and you do something like that, and they're like, oh, okay, all right, I get it. That was wrong, So I think that it really depends on the horse. You have to see the horse for who he is. You have to experiment with him, and don't be afraid to ruin the relationship a little bit, because what you learn is going to be so valuable that it can help you to build a relationship a lot more on top of that. So don't be afraid of sometimes, okay, now I kind of punished him a little bit too much, or that was a little bit too much for him or something like that. Don't be afraid of that, because then you know it, and then you can learn from that and just don't do it again, and then find better ways to punish him or to tell him that he did something wrong. That's, in my opinion, what punishment means. I mean, punishing means you're telling somebody, no, that's not okay.
Great. Angelina, I assume this answers your question. The next question has been asked by Vanessa. It is a very broad one, so I would suggest to skip it, Vanessa. I hope you don't mind. And if I may, we can move on to the next question. Abigail asks you, how do you get that deep relationship and friendship where you just do things because you both want to? So again, the bonding between human and horse.
That is about knowledge. That is about knowing what the other one wants. So I think the question answers itself. How do you get a relationship where you're both doing things for each other? That's very easy. Do things for each other. So you start. If you want to build a relationship, you start and you do something for the other one. We humans do this too, and it's actually logical. No, I mean, there's a girl walking on the street. You go and you say something nice and you invite her for dinner. You're trying to build a relationship, and what you're doing is you're offering something nice to kind of get things rolling. And with the horse, it's the same thing. So I observe what kind of person or in this case animal is it, what kind of horse is it, and then I start trying to do something for him. For example, there is a problem, there is a plastic, let's go solve that together. And then the horse is scared and says, oh my God. And then no problem, I'm there for you, I'll help you with that. And there I'm doing something for him. As soon as he says, oh yeah, I can do this, I will try, then I say, oh, you did now something for me, now I'm going to do something else for you. We're going to go have some grass or something. So it's doing things for each other. I think the question kind of answered itself almost there. In my opinion, these things are logical if you humanize them a little bit. We shouldn't do it too much. Horses are horses, humans are humans. But if you think about it in a relationship-wise, how a relationship works between two humans, then you can kind of start figuring how it could work with a horse as well, because a relationship is a relationship.
Wonderful. Next question up, and I would like to ask you for a brief answer, as we are running a little out of time, and Anja Beran is already in the start box.
All right.
So Angelina again asks, what is your first exercise you begin with when you start building the partnership with a new horse?
It depends. I like normally to make something that is a problem for the horse. So I try to look for something that's not going to be right away solved. So I can go through a longer process and really figure out who the horse is. So that's usually whatever is not going to work. Whatever you think is going to be a problem, not going to work right away with most horses. That's the way I like to start. So I like to find something, go to the horse, and try to solve the problem.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Arien. It has been a pleasure having you. Really appreciate it. Everyone that has been following you on social media knows that you have been involved in a car accident. And obviously, as we see, you are in good shape and you're on track to get back to the arena. Is that correct?
I am. It's going to take a while until I'm able to work with horses again. It's going to be at least 6 months until I can work with horses again, and then about a year until I can ride again. But I'm okay. I'm alive, happy to be alive, and all the operations went well. And well, I'm just happy to get going again.
Wonderful. So we really appreciate you having here on the We Horse Online Festival. All the best to you. We keep in touch, of course. And there have been plenty of people from all around the world watching this session. So thank you very much, Arien Aguilar.
Thank you very much for being here. Thank you.